What's up everyone, this is EJK. This video today is going to be about the two elements that you need to construct a game plan. The first element that you need is purpose, and you can accomplish this figuring out what your purpose is by answering the question, how will you win? There are many ways to win a game, and you can either win a game utilizing your strengths, such as your mechanical superior mechanics over your opponent to win out a macro game, or you can use a timing attack to cripple your opponent's macroeconomic game so that instead you will have some sort of advantage, and so you'll be able to win in the where your opponent would normally be stronger. And the second part is execution. How will you get there? In this game, we see Ragnarok chooses to go for a two-base Nidus attack, and that is his execution to accomplish the purpose that he wants. And I'll go over their separate game plans in a little bit. And Innovation's execution is to go for a 3 command center build. So Innovation's game plan, his purpose, how will he win, is to utilize his strengths to carve out an advantage to win the game and to just get a lot of advantages in the middle to later stages of the game because of his superior mechanics. His execution of that is to go for a command center first into a 3 command center build so that he can get to the mid to late game area, the part of the match that he wants to get to, as fast as possible. Ragnarok, on the other hand, contrasts with a different game plan here. His purpose, how will he win, is to hit Innovation with a timing before the mid to late game strengths of Innovation starts to kick in. So instead of trying to fight Innovation in a straight up macro game, Ragnarok is choosing to sidestep Innovation's strengths and hit him before his strengths kick in, which is a very intelligent thing to do if you're trying to win a game against someone like Innovation. And his execution of it is the 2-base Roach Nidus push, and it's to camp the production of Innovation. So with those things in mind, we're going to start the game now, and hopefully the game will appear slightly different with these concepts in mind about purpose and execution of both of the players. There's not sorry, I was just thinking for a second. So I don't the in a game plan the build orders themselves are very interchangeable. And by that I mean you can have the same game plan for every single map, but you cannot have the same build order for every single map. And that's why it's important to focus more on the concept of having a good game plan rather than a good build to accelerate your progress on the ladder. Something like Innovation's build, for example, the command center first, is simply a means to an end. And he can do a command center build first on this map because of the in-base natural. On a map such as Laralac Crest or Runes of Ceres, however, it would be much harder to get away with a command center first build against a Zerg player. And so Innovation would have to switch his build to do something that would be more accommodated to the map in order to achieve his game plan of getting to the mid to late game to utilize his superior mechanics. Ragnarok has very intelligently done a similar thing. This is kind of the equivalent to a command center first build because Ragnarok got the layer before speed. He is very low on the defense. Because this is a good CC first map, Ragnarok can take these cuts to his play, and he's also using just one queen to block the ramp, seeing the queens blocking the ramp is a pretty big indication that it's either going to be Mutalisks or two base roaches. And the Hellions seeing that is a pretty big tell for innovation that something fishy is about to happen here. And he's right. The reaction, however, is what needs a little bit of work on innovation's part. What ends up happening here is Ragnarok chooses to camp over the production of innovation, specifically the production, not the economic areas. So he doesn't do the Nidus Worm in the natural or the main. He does it right on top of the production, or right next to the production, I should say. His target is innovation's units, not innovation's SCVs. The SCVs were getting targeted here, but simply because innovation had to conscript them as part of his army so that he could hold off the initial push. But this is something, the decision to stay near innovation's production like this rather than go to his natural to stop some more mining time is a very specific decision, something that cannot be done on the fly. This is something that Ragnarok planned, decided that he was first going to do this Rochnitis push. He practiced it, and then he found out that camping the production is a lot more effective than looking for the economic damage and trying to kill a lot of SCVs of innovation. Just the result of good preparation so that he can execute his game plan as good as possible. An advantage of having a game plan that doesn't last long, aka a cheese, that's more known as, is that it's a lot easier to execute a cheese than it is to execute a macro game plan, because as the game goes on longer, both players start to make more mistakes, and if you aren't on the same caliber as someone like Innovation, you tend to make more mistakes over the same period of time as the other player. In this case, Ragnarok could make, say, 10 mistakes in his macro play that he would want to change when he looked at the replay, whereas Innovation could make perhaps 5, and that would give Innovation a lead in the macro game. Now this counteracts, the cheese counteracts everything about Innovation's game plan. Innovation wanted to get to the 3 base stage as fast as possible. That's still his goal, and it's just changed how he's going to get there execution-wise, because in order to get to that 3 base stage, he needs to first survive this Rochnitis attack. Then he needs to survive it without taking too much damage as well, which this has already done a considerable amount of damage, canceling the 3rd CC, trading off a lot of units, dealing a lot of economic damage. Innovation's on about 1 base right now. 17 SCVs is enough to saturate just 1 mineral line. That Roach with 16 kills, 17 kills is pretty insane. Guess he was pretty good at Assassin's Creed because the Roach is an assassin. Ha ha ha. This attack keeps going because Ragnarok is aware that he's still taking favorable engagements. Innovation's still losing a lot of mining time, but now he's decided to stop the attack and instead to start macroing out of it. So now that the attack has finished, the game, both players can continue on with their game plan. So Ragnarok is now going to play a standard macro game such as what Innovation was trying to do, except he now has a considerable advantage from the timing attack of the Rochnitis. Innovation, on the other hand, he's not going to deviate anything about his game plan. And by that, I mean, if you're in a bad position like Innovation is currently, down twice as many workers as the Zerg player, Power of Mules is not going to help you either. What lower level players tend to do is to modify their game plan after they've taken a lot of damage like this. So an example could be to try to go for some sort of two base all in because you know you'll never make it back to, or you will never make it in an even game, so you want to try to get as much army and hit one final timing before the other player's economy overpowers yours. That's not always the best decision that you want to make. Sometimes, and you should not make that decision inside of a game. You should be making that decision outside of a game after you've watched the replay and come to that conclusion. And actually watching the replay on either faster or X2 speed, not any of that like X4 to X8 crap the whole way through. If you're watching a replay on like X4 or X8, you just cannot be expected to learn as much compared to watching it in slower motion because most of the important things that could prove vital to finding the proper adjustment to your play simply will just be missed on the faster speed. Innovation's third command center is being rebuilt here. Innovation is essentially his game plan, his purpose was to get to the 3-base stage. And he's still following that game plan even after he took a considerable amount of damage against the Roach Knightus. Unfortunately, what ends up happening here is the Mutalisks end up doing so much damage that Innovation would no longer have the opportunity to even get to 3 bases, really. Because losing, I believe he loses another like 15 SCVs. So like he was slowly starting to claw his way up into the game. He was just going to turtle on 3 bases and try to take a big, good, like a good engagement at 200-200. If you stomp your opponent and your opponent's reinforcements can no longer defend the rest of your push, then you can win the game. However, Innovation, losing 15 SCVs, realizes that he's not going to make it to the 200-200 fight anymore, and as a result, ends up pushing out with this army in a last-ditch attempt to try to do something. Oh, and even not even having the turret up in time, that's just very unfortunate. Excuse me. Oh, and even the combat shield's going down. So this game has been pretty much over, but we see Innovation finally break under the pressure after the Mutalisk Karask by moving out on the map like this instead of trying to secure his third base and turtle really hard, which ultimately wouldn't he wouldn't have he doesn't have that good macro to be able to make a comeback. Rest in pieces, Terran Army. But yeah, so that's a different perspective at how to look at some of these games instead of just seeing like just saying, oh, there's a Roach Knightus and it countered the 3CC. No, both players had game plans and they both went about different ways of executing it. And Innovation just wasn't. He needs to find a different way to execute it to get to the 3 base area, and that will not be figured out until he watches the replay and makes the necessary adjustments. Because it could be something as simple as having, I don't know, like a liberator out, a higher liberator count out faster to stabilize. Essentially, you just want to make the smallest adjustment possible. Anyways, thanks for watching, and hopefully my audio is better. I know I've been getting a lot of complaints lately, and it's all my fault, pretty much. But using the good headset, I think the audio is good. I did a lot of tests before I did this video, and it sounds pretty good, at least in my headphones. So hopefully hopefully everything goes smoothly. Eh, cheers, guys. See you later.